We are live.
Okay.
If I read a book and it makes my whole body so cold, no fire can even warm me, I know that is poetry. If I feel physically as if the top of my head would taken off, I know that is poetry. These are the only ways I know. If there is there any other way? Emily Dickinson left a question for all of us. You can well imagine the poet's connection to her craft. She is Emily Elizabeth Dickinson. A little madness in the spring is wholesome even for the king. Dickinson often used nature as a means of defining the world around her and equated it to the place of worship. She asserts that the unpredictability of spring or nature is the missing experience for those in power to remind them of their inferior position. Ladies and gentlemen, in my experience, Emily Dickinson is one of the most interesting, most fascinating, and unique prolific poets in American literature that is versatile and transformative. Through her discussion of various themes, through her use of language and verse, her poems are unique for the Victorian era in which she wrote. They contain short lines, typically lack of titles, and often use slant rhyme as well as unconventional capitalization and punctuation. So, she used to write randomly, but that is what makes her poetry very beautiful. Born in 1830, Amherst, Massachusetts, it was clear that she was ahead of her time. Today, we'll be exploring her poetry, which deals with themes of death and immorality, addressed emotional and psychological states such as loneliness, pain, happiness, ecstasy, death, often personified religion and morality, as well as love and love lost. Today, I have with me, who is my favorite, the advisor, mentor, trainer, poet, writer, global goodwill ambassador, and author of 40 books. She is none other than Jyotirmaya Thakur ji from UK. So she will do that critical appreciation of Emily's work, which is going to be awesome, and we'll be exploring her life with her. Welcome, Jyoti ji. I can't hear you.
You are muted, Jyoti ji.
Jyoti ji, you are muted.
Yeah. Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And
Yeah.
I'm always happy to be with you both. You're my lovely people, and so nice to begin a new era of literature appreciation.
Yeah. So, Jyoti ji, before I start with the life exploration of Emily,
Yes.
am I looking like Emily today?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
I've tried my best to look like her.
Yeah.
with the kind of
Maybe you are.
hairstyle,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very much.
whatever
Yeah,
little
yes,
things I had in my house home, I just wore them.
yeah. She normally wore white. White was the color she wore. I
Right,
don't know
yeah.
why. Yeah, white.
Yes.
Pure white.
Especially when she secluded herself. Yes.
Yes.
So, Emily Dickinson wrote in a letter to T.W. Higginson that my
Yes.
mother does not care for thought. In the later letter to Higginson in 1870, she bluntly said, I never had a mother. Of what could be the reason? So, according to you, what could be the reason for this bitterness? Was this bitterness there in with other females in her home as well, or she had a special resentment with her mother? What could be the reason?
That her mother was a very domestic woman, despite being educated. It's not that she was not educated. She had a very good, during that time, for that time, she had a very good education. Uh, but little is known of her. What we know about her is through Emily's letter, and
Yeah.
who is often, she's often represented as a very passive wife of a very domineering husband, and a few surviving letters suggest a different picture. For example, as there's a scant information about her early education at Monsoon Academy, and she was discovered by Martha Ackman. Martha Ackman, discovered her through the letters of Emily, and she says that this woman was dedicated to her studies. When she was a woman, she was dedicated to her studies, particularly in sciences. So it's quite amazing that when she got married to a very good family, aristocratic family, and her husband was a lawyer, later a politician, a very distinguished career, and being very domineering, she totally devoted herself to domesticity. And
In
she
spite of
had
the
two
fact that
daughters
she
and
was
one
quite
son.
educated. She was quite
Yes, she
educated.
was educated. And she was good in her studies as well, that as
Yeah.
written by little what people know. But despite that, she did not encourage Emily to write her poems or get it in a way published. Only 10 of her poems during her lifetime were published out of 1800. There was complete discouragement. She was mostly forced as a daughter to do her daughter's work and feminine work and domestic work at home with her sister, Lavia. She was very nice. Her sister, younger sister, was much better in a way, accepting her mother's household chores, but Emily wasn't. And when she went she didn't like Puritan ways, she didn't like discipline. She wanted more time for herself. She loved nursing people, which she did later when her mother became invalid. She had mental diseases as well, and she had later on she died of heart attack, of course, her mother, after having a paralytic stroke and so on, and she became incapacitated. So, but before that, her mother was quite um, obedient to her husband, her father, and she made the daughters do the daughter's job in the house. And that, made her a little furious because she could not explore her own creativity and it was not appreciated. And she wanted her mother to understand at least. If not the
Obviously,
men,
then
yeah,
I think even I could also think of this reason of
yeah,
that
yeah,
incompletion or bitterness
yeah,
between both of
yes.
them. Yeah.
That being educated mother, she should also let her daughter explore, more of her intellectual and more of her own creativity.
Obviously, no matter which era is it,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
dreams and desires of human beings, they always remain there.
same. And the daughters
And
also look upon their mother to support them, if not the father.
yeah,
And
especially
that
when it
was,
was Emily and she was
yes,
so talented.
yes. And that was missing. And that was missing. And that made her a little frustrated. And
I
definitely that
got it.
love changed into hate. But later on, they reconciled. They did reconcile. It's not that she didn't serve her mother. It's not that, but the era was such that she was like, she couldn't understand why should women be so subjugated? Why should they be slaves of their menfolk? That was something she
Got
could
it.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this now we have understood that why there was a kind of bitterness between. Otherwise, mom and daughter. I mean, they enjoy such a good relationship.
Yeah.
Where, but yes, of course, there was this kind of incompletion
Yes.
because Emily was not given enough chances to
Yes.
prove herself, to actually explore life.
Yes.
Uh, and what a paradox that today, in this era, we are exploring her poetry.
Yes. Posthumously
Yeah,
after her death, and luckily her own
after her
sister.
death. After, yes.
Yes,
So
it was her.
we'll be, hmm, yeah. Hmm.
It was her own sister, Lavi, who actually took out all the volume, although she could not understand then. When a sister used to read out or get her opinion, there was nothing. She could not understand. But later on, she took all her poems. There were 1,800, and she gave it to she gave it out for publication. So in a way, she
Right.
was appreciated posthumously after that. Yes.
So sister will, after all, remain a beautiful sister. She took such a brilliant stand for her sister, elder sister.
Yes.
That
Yes.
I mean, that's why this is how Emily's poems are right there in front of us. Otherwise, we would have missed
Yes.
her poems. They would have just
Yes. Yes.
would have been
Much
dumped
more.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we'll be exploring Emily's life all the more with Jyoti ji. But before that, I am inviting Anupam Mithas, founder of Aagaz Mehfil, whose original concept is this: exploring poetry, to recite one piece of poetry of Emily.
Yes. Why
Yeah.
not?
Hi,
Yeah.
Anupam.
Hi, Canny
So,
and Jyotiji. How are you?
I'm good.
good,
I'm
good.
good.
And
Thank
some,
you.
first of all, I would like to thank both of you for taking this initiative to start this program of exploring English poetry. I'm really thankful to you. You always have been a good support, great support. Especially Kenny is always there, and Jyotirmaya is always there with all her knowledge and wisdom and all her intellect to share her experience of poetry and life. It is amazing to see both of you together and discussing uh, our first poet of interest, Emily Dickinson. So I have selected one of her poems, which is a piece of poetry, which is really short and simple, because I always like simple poetry, not too long or too complicated. So this is the one I have chosen, as she wrote, "Hope is the thing with feathers. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm, and sore must be the storm that could abash a little bird, that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I have heard it in the chillest land. I have heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea. Yet never in extremity. Yet never in extremity. It asked a crumb of me. It asked a crumb of me. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul. So, I'm so amazed and so captivated by the first two lines of her poetry. Like, that's like, hope is the thing with feathers. That shows like how imaginative she was and how
Yes.
Yeah.
creative she was. That gives us, it's a good evidence of her intelligence, her, creativity, I would say. Like she was, a born poet.
Yes.
So,
That's why
yeah.
she was ahead of her times.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Although she might not have that kind of grammatical, the grammatical correction in her writing. She never knew how to make proper sentences.
You know,
But her expression is brilliant. The
yeah, that
words and
one
kind of
thing I would like to say,
mindset.
as we started the program, that about the era she was born and she was living, like there wasn't much encouragement for the women
No,
to to bring forward your talent, and especially poetry, as she wrote 1800 poems, and
poems. Yes.
only how many were published? Only 8 of
10
them were
during her lifetime.
during her
Only,
lifetime. But the
yeah,
thing is, but she kept on writing. That's the thing that shows her positivity. Like though
She
the
kept
things
on
were
writing, yeah.
that, so that she didn't lose the hope. She kept writing, and as she said, there is a bird without feathers which lives inside her. So she was
inside.
hopeful, and you see that now this today, like after so many I would say centuries, we are here and we started our program of exploring English poetry with
Her.
her.
Yes. Well, this is also my favorite poem. One of
Hmm.
her favorite poem of Emily Dickinson, and its warmth and positivity
Yeah,
speaks to
that's
my
what I
gut.
say.
I always pause on the inverted commas around the word hope. There are inverted commas around hope,
Where
and
yeah, you're right.
wonder why Dickinson felt the need for them. Why did she need them? That hope was very important for her,
Yeah, that's what
for
I'm saying.
everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Was she qualifying hope in some private way? Was it very personal in a way? Was she trying to say something through that word? Or Dickinson was a fan of Emily Bronte. There are three sisters,
Oh,
British,
oh,
very famous. And she
yeah,
was a fan of Emily Bronte. We all know, the very famous novel
yeah,
of Emily Bronte, The
yeah.
Wuthering
Yeah,
Heights. She only
Yeah,
wrote,
we read that in our school days. Do you
you
remember?
read
yes,
that,
Wuthering
yeah.
Heights, yeah.
yes. And she was a great fan of the wildness, of Heathcliff and the wilderness, because she also lived in a very aristocratic house with a big ground around her, and there were trees and there were birds. And that inspired her. Even in the chilly weather, these birds do not forget to sing, and they give you hope. Even at the
Yeah,
darkest moment, they know
yeah.
morning is coming, and they just,
Right,
so
right,
they
right,
say,
right.
it is fun. So here she chose the English writers, Emily Bronte's, that is a line from her. No coward soul is mine.
Wow.
No coward soul is mine to be read at her funeral. She asked them to read this poem on her funeral. Was hope is the thing with feathers? Was hope is the thing with feathers? Influenced by Bronte's poem Hope. There is a
Oh,
poem of
wow.
poem Hope, and that
This
is
is
along.
I just browsed few of her poems, and this was the one I was so fascinated. Like,
So,
yeah, this is the
because
one I
because
would
Anu,
like to
you are
recite.
always positive, so
Yeah.
she chose this poem particularly.
Yeah. Because Kenny said, no, I know you are going to recite one of her piece of poetry. I said, okay. I wasn't that much, I would do participate then, but she motivated me. I said, okay, let me
It's good.
participate in it.
It's good. We more the
So,
merrier. More people, more. So if so, Dickinson chose to make her poem life affirming, despite adversity, despite what she says is chilly weather, rocky, and whatever. The birds don't
Yeah,
forget to sing. So
right.
we should be, as a poet, as a bard, we should always keep singing about affirmity, about positivity, about the
Right.
warmth in our life. And it was a counterpoint to Bronte's more downbeat verses on the same theme. So it was actually, she was going against Emily Bronte, that there is hope. Whatever may happen, there is always hope
there is hope,
despite
yeah.
adversity. So
Yeah,
that is,
A
this is
hope for
my
the bright
first
life.
English poetry recitation, actually. I never recited English poetry that.
But you recited it so well, Anu. And in
yeah,
fact, now after your recitation and after Jyotiji's explanation, I
Yeah,
am quite
yeah.
hopeful for so many things.
Yeah, she looked at each of her word of poetry, like we're like, what does it really mean? Like when he's saying that storm and chillest weather. So despite in all those unfavorable conditions, there is the
Yes,
birds, there's a bird of hope, like the birds they still chirp.
Mm.
true, true, true. So
Yeah.
let's
God,
explore it further now.
yes,
Let's explore it all the more. So,
yes.
Jyoti ji, though very isolated, she was very isolated. At times, she was very lonely. She used to be lost in her books. She's known to be sadist also to some extent, which I have read about her. Though I would not use any kind of negative word for her, but this is what I have read about her,
Hmm.
which seems to be unbelievable to me. Yet there was a human side of her who cares. That human side of hers who cares. Because in a letter to Mrs. J.C. Holland, she wrote, the dear mother that could have flown. It never occurred to us that she had no limbs because her mother had suffered from paralytic stroke. So
Yes.
that's why she wrote that it never occurred to us that she had no limbs. She had wings and soared from us unexpectedly as a summoned bird, which depicts soft side of her character. She wrote
Yes.
to Mary Whitney, "All
Yes.
is faint indeed without our vanished mother."
Hmm.
I am so touched by these words. All is faint indeed
Yes.
without our vanished mother, who achieved in sweetness what she lost in strength. I repeat this, who achieved in sweetness what she lost in strength. Through grief of wonder of her fate, made the winter short, and each night I find my lungs breathless, seeking what it means. I
Hmm.
mean, this means that she was hugely attached to her mother, and there was a kind of love hate
Yes.
relationship between both of them. So,
Yes.
this,
Yes.
this means that her mother had a huge influence on her. So, don't you think that
Yes.
she was deeply in love with his mother as well?
Yes. We actually hate someone very strongly when
Yeah,
expectations are not met because we love them most. We don't hate a stranger. We hate someone we have a great, it's a coin, the other side of the coin, love, hate. So
love
she
hate.
did
Yeah.
love her mother very much.
Hmm.
Yeah, she loved her mother very much. And she had great expectations. But somehow it was not fulfilled during the lifetime. But when she did take care of her incapacitated mother, and she felt sorry for her, very
Yeah.
sorry for her, that do, by doing such course, her domesticity, sacrificing her own life for the welfare of the family, she had come to a state where she needed care, to be cared. And they did it. She did it. And when she died, for for Emily Dickinson, one thing, death was a transcendent. In a way, it was a very predominant thought in her, and she did not see death as the end of life. She thought that there is an afterlife, and whatever wishes we could not fulfill in this life, we could go and do it in the next life. So there she thought this is a freedom, the freedom of the soul. She did not see it in the way that normal people see death is the end. She always thought death is a transcendence from
Mm.
life
Yes.
to a better life, to a life of your dreams where no one is going to dominate on you. You're free.
Yeah.
Your soul
Yeah.
is free. So
That's,
that's
yeah,
what
so right. Jyotiji, I agree with you for the first point. Your first point that we hate the person we love. We don't hate strangers.
pretty much.
Like when our
Mm.
expectations are not fulfilled naturally, as a kid, we
Absolutely.
get
Yeah.
annoyed with our parents, with our, with our close ones. So
Yes.
that is natural. But there, the string of attachment,
Mm.
love, a bond of love always stays there. So
It
it's
is.
just like you are a little bit disappointed, I would say that, but they still like, the strings of attachment, love and care always stay there. So that's natural, because her mom did like what she thought it was right during that time, because we all do, expectations of the society, also of family. So like you are, like, I would say forced, even if you don't like to do it sometimes. Like it is just like we have to go by the norms. That happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what Emily had gone through, this is applicable today also. I mean, we as parents, or parents as parents, or grandparents as parents, they did whatever they did. They did whatever was right at that point
Yeah,
of time.
yeah, like it's a time, like
Yeah,
expectations change with time. People change
yeah,
with time, attitude change with with time. That happens. And
Yes.
yeah, and as your second point was about, like, she took care of her incapacitated mother. So same thing is that, because there was a string of attachment. So she, no matter like what were her like apparent feeling, but in her heart, inner side was like she was a daughter, and she felt like, no, or like she felt the pain of her mom, and she looked after
yeah,
her.
yeah,
So there is a,
And
it's a real good thing, because despite being in the house, she never felt imprisoned. She
yeah,
always had the ability to write, and that
you
was her
know
freedom.
yeah, writing gives us so much freedom. Now I can feel, because I have always been writing from my school days. But now when I am writing so frequently, and so like, it gives me so much freedom of thought. Like I feel like kind of strength, power. I feel
Yes,
empowered. A sense of
yes,
empowerment is there for me. Okay, I can do this, like
yes.
then it is
It is,
unstoppable. Like for you, you have written 40, your 40 books have been published. So it means you are unstoppable, and you have been so much.
unstoppable. Yeah,
that is the
because
what's called inescapable limitations. We escape it through this writing. The human limitation is totally borderless. We just go beyond borders, and we do that. So these are our imaginable escapes.
Yeah, yeah, you are right. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's just
It's
like we
liberation.
like.
It's a liberation for us.
Yeah, it's yeah, but that's what I say. Writing is just like you went out your emotions, your thoughts. Yeah, your Jyotirmaya got disconnected. It looks like.
Just for a
So
second.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
so.
yeah.
Now I'm further reading one poetry piece of Emily, which is a kind of glimpse of her biography.
Okay.
That her life was like a loaded gun. So she writes, "My life had stood a loaded gun in corners till a day. The owner passed, identified, and carried me away. And now we roam in sovereign woods. And now we hunt the deer. And every time I speak for him, the mountains straight reply, and I smile. Such cordial light. Open the valley glow. It is as a Velusian face had let its pleasure through, and when at night or good day done, I guard my master's head. She is better than the elders' duck, deep below to have shared. To foul of his I'm deadly foul, none stir the second time, on whom I lay a yellow egg, or an uh, emphatic thumb, though I then he may longer live, he longer must than I, for I have but the power to kill, without the power to die. That expression is good without without any sentence structure, or without But this is so wonderful to read, you know.
Yeah. It is one of a very powerful poem.
Very
Uh,
powerful poem. See, if we read it just like I mean, it's such a kind of rough poetry with a deep meaning. Through I then he may longer live, he longer must than I, for I have but the power to kill. We just have to extract the powerful aspect of her
yes,
character,
imagination and character. Yes. Well,
imagination.
yeah. Here, Emily Dickinson actually excels at the explosive first line that
Yeah,
draws the reader in, that simply draws the reader in. And it's by inverted commas she writes the sentence, my life had stood a loaded gun. It's basically she's writing when she wrote this. It's about her
yeah,
family feud that was happening. There were many family feuds then because they lost one of the house. They had to leave one of the house that they were living in the town and come back to the because they could it. So they had to come back to the ancestral grandfather's house and live. So there was a great
yeah,
feud, and definitely the son, when he got married, he wanted to have a life. He was a young lawyer as well. So he went into that house with his wife, and they had to come. Mother, father, and two daughters had to come back to their aristocratic life. So there was a family feud there, and she mentions that. But she also mentions her own. Despite being a loaded gun, she could burst out any time. Here, there's a cryptic meaning also, is one of her strongest openers, and the poem is cryptic. Cryptic in a way, it may be about afterlife. Because her meanings are so intense and so metaphysical that it's difficult to give one interpretation. It may
see,
be
is
even
it? Yeah,
about afterlife.
sorry to interrupt you because when I was reading the poem, I have read it 2 3 times. Um, is it? It has it something to do with love lost?
Yeah, it was also, or it may be about an actual lover.
Maybe,
It
yeah.
may be, yeah, it may be also because she had two lovers. One of them was her father's own friend. He was a judge, Lord, and they were very close together. Then she had a previous one who was a priest, but he was married, and so they became friends. But Lord was very close, and she used to sit in publicly also on his lap. So maybe it is very difficult to interpret because she never delved into her private life and never told anybody about it. She just stood aside as
Yeah,
helplessness and power. Despite being loaded, she could not shoot. So it might be a meditation on her own anger, helplessness, and her powerlessness. So one meaning I'm giving you, that it is a Dickinson backlash against having to write her poetry in secret also, because she had to write it in secrecy. She couldn't write it openly or get it published.
yeah,
So maybe she was a loaded gun, but she could not explode or could not publish it publicly, right? So it's a writing a poetry in secrecy, gun as a language. She's using gun as a
yeah.
language that she had
Was
such
this
a knowledge.
being published?
Only 10 were published and she wrote 1800. So maybe that's the thought that she used gun as a language. She's full of poetry, full of words, full of expression, but she cannot explode. She's a loaded gun, waiting to go off anytime. That means she would write anytime and she would do so whatever
Yeah.
might happen. It doesn't matter whether she gets published or not. She will privately load it off. And interestingly, Little Gordon,
She kept
one of the
getting
great
loaded.
editors who took up,
Yeah. I said he kept
she was
getting
loaded,
loaded. I mean,
and she
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
say
with a lot
about
of
Jyotiji too,
yeah,
unstoppable. Once you start writing, you have that talent, you have that, intellect, you have that, perception of life. So you will write.
you don't
There's
know.
no way you
Yeah,
are going to went out. So
Yeah.
it's just
So
like
you
we
are like a
those
loaded gun.
because a poet's
Yeah.
mind is full
Yes.
of thoughts, full of emotions. Like we emote on each and everything of
Yes.
life. A single,
True.
very, we like it's like a microscopic thinking, I would say.
Yeah.
It's some,
So anything happens to us, we come out with words, whether it's anger, whether it's helplessness, whether it's saying our power is our words.
yeah,
See,
Yeah.
people say, yeah. So words has been used as a very powerful weapon,
yeah.
and
So
thought
yeah,
gun,
that's
gun
true.
is
I would
thought.
say, like two words, there are two words, microscopic and macroscopic. Micro means minutely, macro means when we're looking at a bigger view. So like ordinary people, like how can we differentiate a poet from other person who doesn't write? Like other person, maybe he's feeling like he looks at things, vision of life is macroscopic. He doesn't analyze each and everything, what's going on around. But poet
A
or a
writer,
writer, he has a microscopic view. He would analyze each and every happening, like whatever is happening,
yes,
going on, like within himself or outside, like inside or outside. Each and every thought, feeling is expressed in form of words.
Right. Yeah. So
yes,
this
yes,
piece of
very well,
poetry,
and
yeah, of Emily is so powerful that every time you read it, you come out with some different interpretation.
Yeah, and I like the interpretation of Jyotiji, the way
yes,
she elaborated on her thought on this
Yes.
piece of poetry. Yeah, that's really, yeah,
Yeah.
because we really need someone to interpret it, like
Of
poetry
course,
actually. Yeah.
poetry is all about interpretation, and
and diff-
unless or until you really meet the original writer and ask
Why did you write
what
it?
did you mean?
yeah,
because
there are many
because when
interpretations because Family Feud was going on.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
And
sometimes
one
I
thing
read
more,
Anu's
Kenny,
poetry. Huh?
whenever a poet or a writer writes, there's always a background.
Yeah.
There's
there is
someone.
Whenever
always
sometimes I read Anu's poetry and then I ask her, while writing, did you mean this? Because I have interpreted it like that.
yeah.
So,
It's left to the reader. It's a poetry that you write. It's like a story told, and now
yes,
you leave it to the reader as you like it. Shakespeare's famous line, "As you like it." It's
Wow,
all to the
wow,
as
yeah,
you like it.
that's
Yes.
right. Yes, right. Yeah.
Such a beautiful. I think we'll do the critical appreciation of As You Like It, because that is one of my favorite work
play.
of Shakespeare. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
I have read, I think, almost 12 novels of Shakespeare because
Anu,
we
we
used
had
to,
read it in school.
all story, all his novels in form of stories. Actually, there was a book. There we
Yeah.
have 12 novels of Shakespeare in story format, like a compressed version. So
Yes,
we,
yes. We have read
Twelfth
it in school.
Night
Yes.
and Macbeth, everything with Julius Caesar, or Much Ado
Yeah.
About Nothing. So there's so many of his pieces.
So let's move further now. Here's another poem, because this is a very short poem. I believe this is the shortest poem written by Emily, but very powerful poem, which was written published in 1891. I mean, after she passed away.
Oh, so this was published, this poem. Okay.
Yeah. So, the title which is been given is "I Am Nobody. Who Are You?" I am nobody. Who are you?
Yes.
Poem that question the need for attention, seeking instead to highlight the virtues of anonymity and isolation. So, I am nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? And then there's pair of us. Don't tell they advertise, How dreary to be somebody. How public, like a frog, to tell one's name, the live long June, then an admiring bog. In fact, Jyotiji, I would like you to elaborate and explain this poetry piece, because this is really meaningful.
Yes,
Everyone
very.
is seeking the attention, and in that era, Emily has written such powerful words. So I would really like you to elaborate it and explain it to us.
Evidence suggests Dickinson lived much of her life in isolation, considered an eccentric by the locals. She developed a penchant for white clothing and was known for her reluctance to greet guests. She was totally reluctant to greet any guest, or later in her life, to even leave her bedroom. Dickinson never married, and more friendship between most of them, depended on correspondence. And later on, she got so frustrated that she just gave up on even writing epistolary too. So,
Yeah.
in a way, when she segregated herself from the society and started living in her own bedroom, she said, if you watch this first line in a question is written in, nobody is written in capital letters.
Yes.
So Dickinson's random use of capital letters throughout her work raises questions. But the practice comes into its own in this short poem.
Actually, I was wondering that why this is written in a capital letter, nobody. I mean, N is capital.
I am nobody, she writes. The narrator may be nobody. She doesn't think she's nobody. The narrator may be nobody with a capital N. So this is another poem about notoriety and the public eye. She became notorious because she has segregated herself and people think her eccentric, but it doesn't matter. She is somebody and she doesn't need the validation of public. Perhaps
Beautiful, yes.
Perhaps
yeah.
It's an apt mantra for the social media abstainers. Many people don't want social media. They don't want to come out. They don't like, they don't hog limelight. So she had a great mantra for those who did not want it. It's okay. They're also somebody. When she says I'm nobody in capital letters, it means
they don't need the validation of social media.
The public. Yes.
Yeah.
And of today, for example, who actually prefer to revel in the luxury of anonymity. There are many who love to be anonymous, much as Dickinson did. Even Virginia Woolf, she wrote, if a woman is a writer, anon, it means that that writer is a woman. Anonymity is a woman. So basically, this is a very powerful line, even by two writers. And this is one that appealed hugely to me as a child for its cheekiness. This is quite cheeky. I'm nobody. Who are you? It's a question mark. Who are you? So, because I don't care what you think about me. It's a great stamp on people who want to do things but want to remain anonymous. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Giving validation. And of course, for that unexpected frog that turned into a prince. The frog and the prince. The princess and the frog. So a frog.
Yeah.
So you see, a great interpretation. So this is like a childlike theory.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jyoti.
You ask a child.
Yeah. So I just want to say something like, if we look back to our 20 or 30 years back, we used to write in diaries and we used to hide our diaries that nobody would read it. So that was like kind of, we don't want to be in the limelight. That was the time. Like, and she was and she was in 1800 era when the we can say 300 years back. So that time, that, and there were so many restrictions, as you said, like she wasn't motivated or encouraged to write poetry, but she kept on writing despite any encouragement, because she was a natural and a born poet. She can't survive without writing poetry. It's a thing with the poet, natural poet, born poet. Like
Yes.
you feel, if you don't write, like you feel that something is missing, it's just like, you're lifeless. So that's the thing. And being in limelight, and as you know, now the today, as in the present situation, like it's a different situation. Like we want to share our poetry with other. It's a different scenario now. So that's true. Like anonymity was the norm that time. Like
Yeah.
people,
Yes.
yeah, I would say
Nowadays
that.
also there are few poets. I mean,
And
they
women
write anonymously. They
definitely
don't
kept them
disclose their name.
like anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jyoti ji, I would like you to recite one poetry piece. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll start. I was always fascinated by this poem of hers, which later on the poet gave the title "The Chariot." But normally people know, and they came back again and they said, "Because I could not stop for death. Because
Yes.
I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. He kindly stopped for me. The carriage, health, but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too, for his civility. We passed the school where children strove at recess in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill. For only Gosama my gown, my tippet, only to lay. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, it's a century. Since then, it's a centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horse's head where toward eternity. So she
Eternity.
declared that her death will bring her eternity, her immortality, because then nothing can stop her work being shown to the
Yeah.
world. It's only while she's alive that she is stopping herself from being published. But once she dies, she knew immortality is going to be there, and for her, death would give eternity. So
Yeah.
that was her belief, the transcendence. And I think all poets, all writers, they never die. They are not
Right.
afraid.
मैंने
So
ज्योति
as
जी
long,
एक ना
long, हाँ,
एक नज्म लिखी थी, एक कवि शायर कभी मरते नहीं। तो वो वाली मैं
शायर
पढ़ूंगी
कभी मरते
प्रोग्राम के
नहीं.
एंड में, तो मैं वो निकालती हूँ। और as we move towards our closing
Yeah.
this program, so let me look at that. So you could keep going, so let me look at that.
Yes. So perhaps the best known, this is one of the best known of Dickinson's poems, and among the melancholic ones, those that deal with death and afterlife. This may be tied with the notion that because Dickinson was reclusive, she was solitary, she kept her service, she was also angsty and nun-like. Angsty and nun-like. It may also be linked to a general fascination with those who beat. It made a difference because he took another path. So she had taken her own path, particularly if they seemed to do it alone. The Grim Reaper is, of course, about death. It's a poem. In this poem is a civil gentleman. The death is a civil gentleman who takes the narrator, that is the poet, already ghost-like in Gossamer, because she was always wearing white, thin, gossamer-like dresses, and Tule, very soft dresses, gently towards death. Gossamer is normally, compared with the spider's web, white all over, and she stays gently towards death, the civil gentleman, that is the death, and it's a hopeful, meditative poem about the promise of immortality.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
तो ये मेरे मिल गई है वो
Long
छोटी सी
before,
एक
Okay.
नज्म है, ये उसकी मैं से 4
hmm,
लाइनें पढ़ूंगी। शायर कभी मरते नहीं, शायर कभी मरते नहीं, अपनी नज्मों गजलों में जिंदा रहते हैं, अपनी नज्मों गजलों में जिंदा रहते हैं, छोड़ देते हैं ये जहां, छोड़ देते हैं ये जहां, फिर भी किताबों में बसे रहते हैं, फिर भी किताबों में बसे रहते हैं। तो ये बस ये अगर आप कहते तो थोड़ी और पढ़ देती हूँ।
पढ़ो पढ़ो, बिल्कुल, व्हाई नॉट।
तड़पा
व्हाई
देते हैं ये किसी के भी दिल को, तड़पा देते हैं ये किसी के भी दिल को, अपनी शायरी में ऐसा जुनून भर देते हैं। अजब बात है यही कातिलाना शेर, हर तड़पती रूह को सुकून देते हैं। इसीलिए तो सदियों के बाद भी गालिब, मीर तकमीर और इकबाल के शेर दोहराए जाते हैं। इसीलिए तो सदियों के बाद भी गालिब, मीर तकमीर और इकबाल के शेर दोहराए जाते हैं। उनकी सुख के जश्न में शायरी के दीवान सजाए जाते हैं। हर दौर में कुछ हुनरमंद सुखनवर जरूर इस जहां में आते हैं। हर दौर में कुछ हुनरमंद सुखनवर जरूर इस जहां में आते हैं। सुखनवर मीन्स राइटर, जो शायर आप कह लीजिए, जो लोगों के दिलों में अपने निशान छोड़ जाते हैं। साहिर, जावेद, गुलजार दिल को गुलजार कर जाते हैं। तो जो आज के दौर के हैं ये रूहानी शायरी की जिंदा मिसाल बन जाते हैं। शायरी की वो ऐसी अखंड मशाल जलाते हैं, शायर कभी मरते नहीं। तो दैट्स व्हाट लाइक Emily's work make her immortal, like though she's not
That's
in
how
this
today
world,
Emily is still with us.
and even after 300 years we are talking about her, about her
Talking about
poetry.
her, yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
how she made herself immortal. She knows the power of words.
Yeah.
She knows
Yes,
the power. Like she
yes,
is, and she knows that she is empowered. But the thing is, uh, uh, but she was at the same time, as due to the circumstances, she wasn't happy that, like, she wasn't. She didn't have the freedom to express herself with other people. She kept on writing, and there was no one else to encourage her or appreciate
yes,
her writing. As a writer and a poet, we want someone appreciate us,
And today
like
people
someone
are
listen to
today
us.
people are
So that was
appreciating
missing.
people.
That part was missing in her life that time.
Yeah.
But
yes,
still, like, but as a poet, when you are enlightened, you know that this writing will make you immortal.
yes,
See,
yes.
she wrote. In fact, she wrote, "I heard a fly buzz when I died." I mean, she actually believed in the life after death. I
Yes,
heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heavens of storm. So, so Emily completed her life journey on 15th May, 1886, after
yes,
2.5 years of her ill health.
yes,
From the time of her nephew, because she was very close to her nephew, it seems. His name was Gibbs. So when her nephew died in October 1883, she suffered from a consequent nervous prostration. So researchers now say that she died of heart failure and hypertension. So this was Emily Elizabeth Dickinson. This was Emily Elizabeth.
Oh, that was her middle name, Elizabeth. I never knew that.
Elizabeth, yes.
That's good to know.
yes,
So thank you, Anu, for creating this show, for
Yeah,
coming up
thanks.
with this brilliant idea that we can make these legends, alive, and we can
Yeah,
revive
it's
their
good to know,
poetic expressions, discuss them. Yeah,
it's a
and thank you
celebration of
so much. Yeah,
poetry. Yeah, because the reason why we are writing, because we read them. Like, it's just like, how did we know that we can write after reading? Like, it's just like it enlightened us. Like, okay, we have that power. It's just like, yes, some what do you say, ignition. The reading poetry.
ignition. Yeah,
Yeah, so we have to read, and these poets and writers, they always inspire the new poets. Yeah, that's how this chain of imagination and creativity goes on. Like, it would never stop. Like, so,
yeah.
and Jyoti ji's knowledge and wisdom and her own creativity
That's
is,
always so much to learn. There's so
yeah.
much to learn from you, Jyoti ji. In fact, it was, I mean, it is a real pleasure having you here. You know, in fact,
Thank
I was telling Jyotiri, let's cover Keats, let's cover William Wordsworth. She said, no, Emily.
Okay,
And
so
so
yes,
it
yeah, so
did strike me
Yeah,
only
because
that.
science is a
so
great inspiration for women. I thought
so
she's great inspiration for women. That it
She
doesn't
is,
matter.
yes.
It doesn't
so
matter people know you or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't
yeah,
matter whether you get fame in your life or not. It
yeah,
doesn't
right.
matter. Lead your own
Writing,
path at your
writing is
own
the most
pace.
important thing.
And
Yeah.
After you
So
said,
yeah,
after you
just
said
keep
take
that,
your own
writing.
path.
Keep
Yeah,
writing. No matter you're getting recognition of your work or not,
there
sooner
are
or
many
later.
such.
keep writing.
Yeah,
This
there are
is the
many such. Like
biggest
Charlotte
lesson
Bronte.
from Emily.
Yeah. So that's the message of from Emily's life. So I think we
A
would
new life.
like we should
I
say
mean that this is the biggest lesson of the loaded gun. Keep on loading, don't stop actually.
so yeah, so we should say bye to our viewers, to our listeners. So it was a great show and a great beginning. Thanks to Canny and thanks to Jyoti ji for being here and sharing your knowledge and
Yeah.
wisdom. I would say I
Thank
always
you
say
all
the
our
use word
viewers.
wisdom for Jyoti ji. So bye everyone.
Thank you very
So
Bye
much.
let's
everyone.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you.